Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude at BeyondMystic, and welcome to this Galactic Download episode with IndigoAngel. And as you can see, today is a live episode from Cairo, and you can see the pyramids in the background here. So I'm very excited to have this show with you. Indigo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jean-Claude. It's a pleasure to be here. It is a little bit noisy in my background. As you can tell, I'm sitting right next to a highway that actually is right next to the entrance to the Giza Pyramid Complex. So I'm speaking into a microphone. I hope everybody can hear me okay. But I am doing my best just to kind of get you guys the shot here of the Pyramid Complex today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And yes, folks on YouTube, of course, we're doing this live, and we don't have a whole sound crew with us, so we're doing the best that we can. And of course, she's right next to a highway, and I've got things going on today in the house too, house full of kids. So we're going to try to do our best so that you can hear us and still have a great conversation here today. So Aurora last night told me about some of these grid sites and portals that are opening up right now with the fascinating conversation. And I know that you are in Egypt right now doing this exact type of work, and you've been called there. You and I had an episode a couple of weeks ago now, 2 weeks ago. You were in Heliopolis, the city of the sun. And now you're here, very, very close to the pyramids. I'll bring your screen a little bit bigger so people can see that in the background. It's not every day we get a live shot of the pyramids here. So where did you want to start? I know you had two topics you wanted to cover today. So I'll give you carte blanche. Maybe start with the first one, and then we'll see if there's questions from the audience, and we'll just take it from there and free flow. But I have about 45 minutes, maybe 15 minutes max here, because I have another interview to prepare for after this one. So hopefully we can get everything into this episode. Sounds good?
No worries. Most of the content that I talk about, it's so complex that it takes a really long time to discuss it anyways. I'll go over some of my observations and things that I've been taking note of while I've been here. Trying to lean back. Can you still hear me when I lean back?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Some of the things that I'm taking note of are the actual specific radial signatures that are fundamentally expressing themselves through this Stargate site. This Stargate site is it's like an open vortex that basically emits codes from the Stargate site, from the galactic central sun, from the grand central sun, and then emanates that through the landmass, and then also coordinates to other Stargate sites, other axial tonal lines, it's basically kind of like the fundamental Stargate, right? And so I've been observing all of the radial signatures or celestial templates that basically bring forth most of the encryption or most of the mythology or cosmology that's expressed through this gate site. So what I've been noticing here is it's mostly Orion, it's mostly Draco, it's mostly Regulus, Cygnusian, Pegasus, and then also Hydra. Hydra is a very strong undercurrent here. I just did an interview with Kimber Kish just a minute ago, and we were going into the depth of the Hydra encryption. There's not a lot of information out about the Hydra Stargate system, and so, but it's fundamentally all over this gate site. At all the sacred locations, if you enter the Giza complex themselves and actually look at the broken temples and rocks and things that they've used and had there, there's Hydra encryption, there's Wasp encryption. It's all over everything. If you go to Saqqara, the Kings, the Valley of the Kings, they use the Cobra, which is a symbolism for the Hydra Stargate system. They use this for protection. This was all over the temples. It was all over, everything fundamentally that they did and had. So, and they also used it, and they showed that in the Egyptian Museum, where they had the boxes that they used to take the organs from the pharaohs, the Ramses, Tutankhamun, and they used cobras, which is again Hydra symbolism, to amplify all of the energy work that they did. So the Hydra Stargate is very, very, very superimposed on this Stargate site. And so I'm kind of diving deeper into that mythology. Another thing that I came here to study ultimately is the Aquila grid network, which is basically a control grid that was placed at the time of the Atlantis, kind of like an overlay that extenuates through or is implemented through usually like the military It's implemented through the governmental aspects of the Stargate site. So all of this kind of generates fundamentally from this gate site. And so it's a lot of information that's coming through. It's a lot of high solar codes here. So it's the highest solar codes on the planet. It's the closest to the sun, just because of its location on the equator, that it brings forth the higher solar structures, the higher solar geometry. And so they actually have that imprinted all over the city here. As I talked about this in the last video we did, but it's all about the octagonal codes. This is the higher solar geometry. So it's a four-sided star with two squares that overlap. And this is actually the creation mythology of Egypt itself, how the sun actually came to be born itself. And so they describe this through the octagonal codes and through what's called the Ogdode. And the Ogdode is the creation story that there were four serpents, four frogs that basically created the sun. And these are creation stories prior to the sun's existence. And so it just goes to show that Hydra encryption, which again is serpent mythology, and the creation story of the Egyptians is four serpent females created Ra itself. So it kind of goes to show that this mythology of Hydra is very, very ancient. It's very, very old. It's previous to maybe even any creation whatsoever. And so it's one of the oldest Stargate records, and it really is fundamentally imprinted over everything at this gate site here. So it's pretty incredible. These are just some of the things that I've been taking note of while I've been here, and I'm going to be talking more about it on my channel. So if anyone wants to come to my channel, IndigoAngel, and check it out. I'm going to be putting out some pretty extensive energy updates to come with all of this information.
Very good. Thank you for that intro. Now, as you're visiting all of these sacred sites, do you feel that some of the guides, at least, want to share more of this information with you? Are they very scripted in a way, following the narrative from the Cairo Museum and Antiquity, I guess, department? What are your feelings right now as you're visiting all of this stuff? What's coming to you naturally, and what's coming to you from the guides?
I would say most of it's coming to me naturally. I have a pretty strong fundamental account and record just from all of my studies about the history and everything. So I take note psychically, telepathically, claircognizantly, and I also pay attention to the geometry and the solar codes and things like that. Some of it comes from the guides. I would say I've had a few really good guides. One was at the Egyptian Museum and one was at Saqqara. Other than that, I haven't come across too many guides. It kind of seems that like a lot of the culture is disassociated to even their own fundamental underlying spiritual currents and aspects and creational mythologies. I would say I've come across a lot of Egyptian national females and women who are, they're very devout in their religion and their spirituality. The Muslims, the jihads, even the Hebrews. There's some Hebrews here. So they kind of stick to their religion and their spiritual containers or their Templars that kind of keep them hosted in their belief structures. So there's not too much branching out. So I'm getting bits and pieces of information everywhere from all kinds of different people, all different kinds of walks of life. One symbolism that really sticks out to me here is the Hamza. So they're really big about the evil eye here. I even bought a Hamza necklace. I don't know if you can see it, but like I got this Hamza necklace, and I got some Hamza bracelets. But I feel like they are really keen on the principles of the evil eye, and so I feel like they surround themselves in a lot of symbolism that is fundamentally about protection. So I see this a lot in the jewelry that they wear and just the essence of their culture and the things that they represent overall.
Very good. So going back to the Aquila Gates and Hydra, how does this tie in right now with everything that's happening on the planet? Why is this energy maybe different right now, and how do people connect to this energy, if anything, to navigate, everything that's happening on the planet right now? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I do feel that the Aquila, and you have to kind of fundamentally understand what these stargates represent. Aquila itself is the thunderbolt of Zeus. It is the highest aspect of masculinity. It is a higher solar code of the Melchizedek lineage, the Melchizedek higher Christed energy, the higher Christed spirit. It is the fundamental principle of patriarchy. And so it is really important to kind of understand, you know, fundamentally what Aquila means, to understand how this Stargate site is implementing this grid network here and how it affects the rest of the world. And so that's kind of why I'm diving into the studies of the Aquila structures. It's basically the order of the highest intelligence, so the highest solar deities, the highest solar geometries, and it just explains a lot since what happened from the cataclysm of Atlantis, from the fall of Atlantis, from the Holocaust of Atlantis, and what was implemented at this time. And so there's a lot of that's coming up that's explaining these things. Also with Hydra, Hydra represents the suppression of the feminine. It represents the demonization of the feminine. And so it coincides basically the collective awakening of a lot of these inner demons that are coming up, a lot of this inner oppression that has been coming up, and the things that we need to heal fundamentally as a collective. One thing that I've taken note of too is that Hydra also represents the embodiment of chaos, because it represents this global conception of the 13th dimensional planetary field, which is the state of functioning chaos. And so it's basically bringing up just a lot of this more and more. It's birthing this, it's rebirthing this into the collective consciousness. And this is a lot of the stuff that people are dealing with, masculine and feminine. And so that's why they're really important at this time. And I feel that's why this is coming from my consciousness, ultimately, for me to just bring more of this to light. As you know, everything that you think, everything that you speak, everything that you write about, every perception that you have has a ripple effect into the collective, and it's birthing itself through individuals like us who are doing this work.
Right. And just going back to this, I asked you on the show last time, you weren't exactly sure. You knew you were guided to go to Cairo at this time. You knew there was something happening there at the portal level energetically. But you weren't sure exactly why. You were just guided to go there. So now you've been there 2 or 3 weeks already. Do you have, being on these sites now and energetically, physically being connected there and visiting all these places, do you have a better understanding now as to why you're being called there at this time?
It's definitely to bring forth more clarity on the grids. And the colonization that's happening, because what's happening is collectively we're shifting into more of tribal realizations, and we're realizing the colonizations that have taken place on the planet, and who are the power structures, who holds the power cards, how is colonization implemented into the grids, how is it stabilized, right? How is this taking a hold, and how are these things structurally advanced, and how do they actually, manifest and unfold? Well, I think I'm here to kind of break this down. I did a chart on Scribble's map where I went through and I broke down every single running current grid on this planet according to national country animal. The national country animal is the emblem or the logo of the military, of the government that's actually implementing these grid structures. Well, Giza, Egypt, or Cairo, or Heliopolis, these were the original cradle of civilization, of the fundamental governmental implementation of these things. So they're running that Aquila network. That's what they're running here. Aquila the eagle is all over everything, all over the city. It's literally, you can't walk down the street without seeing an eagle on something. And so it's kind of like, it's right in front of our face. It's literally like the symbols are right in front of our face. It's just having the eyes to see where these pins are holding down the overlays, basically. Right. And so I think that I'm here to kind of bring light to this, and I'm really excited to get all of this information out.
Yeah, that's amazing. Man, I wish I was there with you. I've always wanted to visit. I almost went in the early 2000s. I was doing some mission work for the government, and there was I forget, we were going through Beirut, and there was some terrorist activity, and it was canceled last minute. And we almost went again 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago. Carrie Cassidy was running a tour, and by the time she put out her dates and all that, we had already booked another retreat at the same time. So it's been calling me as well, and I'm sure it's calling a lot of people in the audience who are watching this now. It's such a great view in the back, and of course we're going through the sunset here, so it's pretty fascinating. Are you east or west of the pyramids here right now? So where's the sun in relation to you? Where is it coming down? Basically, probably the opposite.
I actually can't see the sun right now.
Okay.
So I must be facing the opposite. I must be facing east.
Yeah, the direction. Okay. Very good. Is there any way maybe you can put another light on you from inside your where you are now, so we can see you maybe just a little bit better?
Not sure. I don't think I have a light. I have a light out here. Actually, I can grab it if you want to wait just a second.
Sure, let's give it a try, just so people can see you here. So thank you so much for joining us on the live chat, folks, on YouTube. This is an impromptu call. It's part 2 of this portal series that we're doing from Egypt with IndigoAngel. And she's been doing great work cataloging all of her visits and all of her downloads there. So you can go check out her website, IndigoAngel222.com, and you can also find her on YouTube at IndigoAngel. I believe her links are in the description box below.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little bit better. We can see you a little bit more. I was just encouraging folks to go visit your website and your YouTube channel, because you've been cataloging this trip here almost daily, and they might have.
I want to say I am running a special right now. I'm doing J-seal removals and then also amp sessions. And if somebody wants to book those together and schedule those within the same week, I'm running a 10% discount off those services. So they would just need to message me and let me know that they want to do them both together, and I'll give a 10% discount.
Perfect. So just after the show, Indigo, send me a link to that, and I'll put it in the description box below here so people have Hotlink direct access to that. Is that also through your Patreon, or is that directly through your website?
That's directly through my website, but I would need to take the discount off, so somebody would need to message me to let me know so I can do that. Yeah.
Very good, very good. Folks in the live chat, if you have any questions for Indigo, please type them in now. And as I wait for that to populate here, I'll get back to Indigo and ask her 1 or 2 questions, so to give you guys time. So Indigo, what's next for you now? Are you traveling again in the next couple of days? And if so, where?
I have big plans, actually. So I'm actually getting to the White Desert. I'm so excited. I'm leaving tomorrow at 6 a.m. The White Desert is beautiful. They actually have 2 deserts. One's called the Black Desert, and then the other one's called the White Desert. So the White Desert is actually covered in salt. So it's very purifying to go here. And it's a nice tour. They take you in, you camp in the desert, you have a fire. And I'm actually going to film there. I'm going to fill in a share invocation. And so I'm really excited about that. And then I'm going to probably get to the Red Sea after that. So Egypt is so, I don't think people realize that Egypt has the best oceans in the world. And I didn't even realize that until I came. But if you go 2 hours to the north, you have the North Coast, and then you also have Alexandria. And then if you go 5 hours to the east, you have the Red Sea. And it's just, they're the most beautiful beaches, the most beautiful waters. And so I'm really excited to just get in the ocean and swim and do energy updates. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
How much longer do you figure you'll be in Egypt for?
Well, it depends. I was thinking about leaving at the beginning of October, but I mean, here in Egypt, they really love having tourists here, and they will just basically, if you would like to stay, they just renew your visa for you. So I know Americans get 3-month visas. I don't know if that's the same for Europeans and Estonians and people from Poland and things like that. I think they can only come on a 1-month visa, but I know that Americans and maybe even Canadians can come on a 3-month visa. So if you come here, you can come, you can stay. The best way to do it is to Airbnb. Airbnb is so affordable. They have so many good options that you can get a nice place for not very much, and you can actually just kind of come and enjoy everything that Egypt has to offer. And it really does have a lot to offer here. And I would not be afraid about terrorism. I mean, Cairo is the most westernized city. I mean, they're really friendly to foreigners. I honestly can tell you, I have felt such a sense of community, such a sense of love. I mean, even the masculines here are very, even though it's like very patriarchal dominant, like there's still this very strong caring and desire to protect the feminine. So I really get a strong sense of that everywhere I go, that people are very caring and catering to you. So yeah, I really love the city. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
And actually, the best city for foreigners is Zamalek.
Say that again?
The best city for foreigners is Zamalek. So there's this little city right in the center of where the Nile splits, and it's this little city, and it's called Zamalek, and it's where all the foreigners go. There's cute restaurants right on the Nile, little cantinas, little bars and restaurants, it's just beautiful nightlife. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm reading some of the chat here. I think Libby just came in. She says, "Oh, I didn't realize that." She just came in. Yeah, we're streaming live from the pyramids. I guess you're about a kilometer away here from the access route to get in there, and we're missing it now a little bit more. And that's why I blew up Indigo's screen here so you could see the pyramids in the background. And of course, we're going through sunset here, so it's getting dark out there. But that's amazing. Somebody's asking, did Indigo visit the Cairo Museum, and did she get particular impressions?
I did go to the museum, and I did actually put a video on my YouTube channel for that. So if you want to go to my YouTube channel, it's on there. I went and visited. I had a tour guide. He wasn't the best tour guide, but he did the best he could. Oh wow, I have lighting all of a sudden.
Now we can see you.
Yeah, but they had I guess the best place to go is actually in Luxor and Aswan is where they have the best museums. There wasn't a lot on Goddess Isis. It was more of like the pharaohs, Tutankhamun, Ramses. A lot of statues that were actually taken from the Hall Colonnade that is actually in Saqqara, which is necropolis, which is considered the city of the dead. And this was next to King Zoser's pyramid. Is where they actually took a lot of these statues that reside in the Egyptian Museum. But if you get down to Luxor and Aswan is where they actually have more just amazing things to see in terms of more of the goddess worship that happened here. So I think that's ultimately where probably the heart of the essence is. I believe that's where the true ancient city of Egypt was in Luxor.
Very good. And speaking of the goddess, seeing as you're there now immersed in these energies, how is that affecting you? How are these energies affecting you while you're there?
It's definitely been a journey. I have to say I've had ups and downs, highs and lows. The solar codes here are so much more powerful. You are integrating those high ultra helium spectrum. We're getting the diamond codes, the platinum codes, the golden codes. I mean, I noticed going from Denver, Colorado to Egypt, it was just the essence and the presence of the sun was so much more powerful. So you're receiving so much more light codes here that it's clearing you out. So I actually went through a clearing process of so much density for the first couple of weeks when I got here, where I was very emotional and I was just, a lot was really running through me. But now I feel accelerated on the energy and I feel more hyper and more life essence inside of me. You kind of begin feeding off the sun, you know, it's food, it's solar food, so it's regenerative, and I feel myself healing in a lot of ways. And yeah.
Well, that's very good. That's awesome. Well, speaking of all of this, the grid structure itself and Hydra specifically, tell folks a little bit how that ties into, because some people might be listening to you and like, where is she getting all of this? This is like very advanced and almost otherworldly information. And I know that you've studied the Ashia-Nadine material quite a bit. Right. So, yes, absolutely. So why don't you give the folks a little bit here? And I know we could do a 4-hour show on just that, but just so people understand a little bit here, how that all connects to this material.
So if somebody wants to kind of just get a quick understanding of it, you can go to ascensionglossary.com and just search Aquila grids, and it's going to pull up a lot of this information from Lisa Renee and also from Ashia-Nadine from the Voyagers books. This is where they basically, through guardian consciousness is fundamentally, from their perspective, it's a galactic identity. It's a galactic ascendancy where there's 6 universal nations that all participated in basically the peace treaties and keeping humanity and the evolution of humanity safe. But ultimately, on a spiritual level, it breaks down to the cherubim, the thrones, the seraphim, the Elohim. And so it's these spiritual guardians that come forth to bring forth this information. So this is where all of this ultimately comes from. It's a channel, or it's something that you tune into to start receiving and downloading this information. And so all of this you can find, if you just want to quickly understand what I'm saying when I say Aquila grids, is you can go to ascensionglossary.com and you can kind of look this up for yourself. This all comes from something called the Atlantean Pylon implant networks, which are the overlays or the grid structures.
Say that again. There's cars going by, and I think we missed what you just said. Where is this coming from?
It comes from something called the Atlantean Pylon implant networks. And underneath that is a list of grids that have been implemented through negative alien agendas and, other consciousnesses that exist here on the planet that are trying to control humanity. And so they implemented grids that overlaid the organic structures on the planet to keep rigidness, to keep form, to keep basically to keep everything in some type of structure so that people could not break out and experience the organic energies and the organic flow and the natural state of the world. And so this is what basically keeps everything in place. All systems that exist in our world today are run off of these grid networks. And so what I've done is I've read this material and I've started to think outside of the box of even what they have taught. And so what I did was I researched country by national animal, and I began to see that there are multiple sets of running grids according to national animals that implement all of these grid structures through the military, through their government systems, right? And so the Aquila grid actually holds the largest countries, America, Russia, Egypt. All of the really strong power cards on the planet hold this Aquila fabric in place. There's also the Lion Network that comes through the UK, ultimately, fundamentally, but then comes through many countries in Africa. There's also the Pegasi grid, and there's also the Dragon grid that is held down by China, which is ultimately Draco and Orion and things like that. But these are the grid structures that are implementing all of these control structures that basically we're all residing under today, and how to transcend that and how to ultimately understand it and where it's coming from and why it matters and things like that. So that's what I'm kind of studying as I'm rolling off of the things that other people have brought forth, which is incredible work. Ashana Dean's work on the Atlantean Pylon Implant Network is incredible work. I mean, this is stuff that if you haven't read this stuff, you need to read this stuff if you are on this mission for really understanding globally and on a quantum galactic level what's fundamentally happening in our world.
Oh, well, very good. And thank you for expounding on that a little bit here, because there might be some new audience here, and the channel is growing, and some people might not know the context from which you're speaking, and they might tend to maybe dismiss you offhand because it's foreign knowledge to them. So I do recommend, if they're interested in this information, to look at the material that Indigo has just pointed to. So very good. Thank you for that. In terms of the grids and the overlays, and I'm going to tie this into other channels now who are talking about this, but from a different perspective, not necessarily the Ashana Dean material, but some research that has been done now through Google Earth. A lot of researchers have come together to put a map basically of these grids that are overlaying the original grid structure on the planet. And one of them is Florida Maquis. He's discovered a lot of remnants of pentagon shapes in either ruins or just basically features on the planet that are in the shape of a pentagon, and they're forming this incredible grid across the planet where it's just too good to be a coincidence, in the sense that there's so many things that are lining up with other known places like the actual Pentagon in the United States and all of that. So there is evidence on the ground, even through Google Earth, to start talking about what you're talking about energetically here. And Jenny Moonstone and I were talking about maybe doing a video with Florida Maki and to bring this information together. And I think I'd like to have you on because, you know, it's one thing to look at the physicality of some of the remnants of this grid that in some cases is very hard to see, but in some other cases is very evident. But it's another thing to bring in the galactic knowledge and the energetic frequency and why it's all it's coming to the fore right now, where all this is coming back into human DNA memory. So I think that would be a really fascinating episode for people to watch. And if you're interested in that, please do let me know, and I'll try to organize that.
Yeah, I'd love to. And you're absolutely right. Those geometric codes, the pentagram, all of those are emanating. Well, they emanate out from the stargates. The stargates actually hold the geometric codes, and they emanate out into the landmass. And it actually, you know, like you were just saying, it forms structures from one location to another, pinpointing a lot of these locations. There's actually even an old Earth equator that runs through the Nazca lines. The Nazca lines into a location in Tibet. I can't remember. It's a sacred site in Tibet.
Wait till I show you this stuff that Florida Maki is doing. You're going to look at those grids, and probably what the grids you're mapping right now, the maps that you and I are supposed to do a video on at some point. There's so many things we need to talk about. I think we're going to be surprised at all the correlation there. And it's, again, it's too much to be just coincidence. I mean, you can put a line between 2 points anywhere on the planet and say, okay, they line up. But when there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points that all line up precisely into these weird, you call them pentagrams or pentagons, but these shapes, secret geometry shapes, you're starting to think of, hey, there's something going on here more than we know. And of course, it's very fascinating. And some of these sites are underwater now. Some of these sites, of course, are in Antarctica. And so there's more than meets the eye to this planet, of course. Libby is saying, yes, thank you so much, IndigoAngel. This is so fascinating. So yeah.
You're welcome, Libby. Thank you.
That would be very good. Polly P, I'm confused by one of your comments. You said, of course, I'd never do something without your permission, especially if it gets shared over and over. Respect. If I missed something, if you're asking me a question here, please just do that in Twitter, or you have my other stuff here. I just missed the chat there, so I'm not sure what you're talking about. And of course, I'm willing to.
And I just want to say really quickly, like you say the pentagram, and that's why I kept saying that this gate site on Giza, Egypt, this fourth planetary Stargate site, this is an octagonal geometry here.
Right.
So this is running octagonal codes, which it's. I never even knew that until I came here. I came here and I received it. I received it they literally have it all over the infrastructure of their cities. I mean, it is just everywhere, and it's so incredible how much sacred geometry in that way that primal life creation speaks to us, because there's many different languages in which creation or solar consciousness or solar intelligence can speak to us, and one is through light and sound, but also through geometry and mathematics. And that's how it's imprinting all of this into our consciousness. And so if you come to Giza, you're going to get octagonally upgraded, let me tell you.
Very good. And I asked you in the last show, and in the last show, you really hadn't tuned into it yet. All the information that is being suppressed to humanity in terms of raising your Kundalini energy, the iconography, the encrypted messages are everywhere, where you look in the pyramids and some of these other sacred sites. And I'm wondering, now that you've spent more time there, have you gotten some of the information either from the guides or from downloads, but are you physically also starting to connect a little bit more with this energy and feeling something maybe different coming up your spine, as you're so close now to one of these big sacred sites where a lot of this energy and knowledge is being held?
I definitely feel it's integrating into my consciousness at a level of claircognizance, of clairsentientness. It's something that you just receive it instantaneously when you visit the sites. You integrate all of the symbolism. I mean, even if you don't fully understand it, it comes to your consciousness later, and you're like, that's why I seen that. This is making sense. In terms of, I'm by a highway. In terms of like oppression and suppression of things, that's why I was bringing up that Hydra consciousness. Cobras were such a fundamental aspect of ancient Egyptian life. Cobras were basically placed on a pedestal. They worshipped cobras. Cobras were in every aspect of their life. I mean, they literally built statues and monuments and temples with cobras all over them. When they mummified themselves, they used cobras to regenerate. Cobras represent immortality. They represent eternal life. And so the Hydra encryption is very masculine as much as it is feminine. And so I've been noticing that more and more masculines have been coming up to me and have been very interested in this Hydra consciousness. What is this Hydra consciousness? Well, it's connected to you through your past lives, through your Egyptian lives, if you feel you've lived here, because this is a very sacred symbolism of the Hydra Stargate. And so it's been suppressed. It's been repressed. I mean, people don't, even if you get into a lot of this galactic information, we talk about the 6 universal nations, which are Pleiades, Sirius, Arcturus, Lyran, Sirian, and Orion. It's all we really talk about in terms of our creation energy. When you start really diving into it, you can see that there are a lot of other fundamental occult star nations that have a lot to do with our symbolism in our everyday creation and manifestation of everything, the Stargate systems, everything. And so this serpent consciousness is kind of coming back up. And this is what holds the suppression and the oppression. It's because it's been demonized, it's been villainized. It's been, if you look at what Hydra is, I mean, there's pictures of it. If you Google Hydra, you'll see Hercules beating Hydra with a bat, trying to kill it. Like Enki killed Tiamat and created heaven and earth, supposedly, from Sumerian mythology. In the Bible, Adam and Eve, and the serpent was the one who was evil, right? So we've been demonizing this consciousness for a very, very long time, and this is what has been rebirthing itself in the collective consciousness. Over the last year, I've been talking about Hydra consciousness endlessly. I have an article about it on my website. I put an entire scripture of it in my book that I wrote. It's coming up for us to transform this energy, and this is what needs to be acknowledged, I think, within the feminine aspect for men and women, for us to kind of keep evolving in terms of this higher consciousness expansion that's happening so globally on the planet right now.
Yeah, very good. Awesome. So folks, if you have more questions for Indigo here, please put them in the chat room. I see you guys are talking amongst each other there too, and that's pretty fascinating. I'll read the chat afterwards. I'm just mesmerized by the scene here, and I wish we could see more of these pyramids. Now, are you going back? So you've been inside the pyramids now so far on your trip, and are you going back, or what's the plan?
I actually do have a trip scheduled for next week on Friday. I'm going to try to do some filming in between the pyramids. I'm not going to actually go back into the complex itself. The complex itself was actually a little bit stressful. They haven't had a lot of tourism, so they have, they kind of really haggle the tourists that are coming in, and there's a lot of guards. There's a lot of things you can and can't do. If you're a filmer and you want to film and you kind of want to do artistic creation things, they don't really allow a lot of that. So if you want to do filming, you have to get private guides to kind of take you off and away from the pyramids, so you can kind of do different things. And you kind of have to be quick and very discreet about it, because the government here, those Aquila grid networks, are very, very solid here. They are very swift, and they pay attention to everything. There's somebody always watching here, always. And so you have to know the right people here to kind of get into the right spot, the right location. And that's kind of, I think, why I have to be here longer, is I'm figuring this out as I go. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we wish you luck. We hope you're safe in your journeys. We hope that you continue to download a lot of this really, really cool information for us. And please do keep us in mind. I'm assuming you won't be able to transmit from the White Desert. There's probably no Wi-Fi out there.
Possibly. If I can get some good service, I will message you.
Yeah, and folks, we might do more of these. I might not have so much time to promote them, because if she gets to a place where she has signals and she wants to talk to us, Indigo, that is, we might do more of these little impromptu, maybe 20 or 30 minute sessions with you guys. That would be fun. So yeah, please feel free to contact me, Indigo, if you're at other sites that you feel would be really, really cool to show the folks here and share the energy. I think this is what this is all about, and this is why it's really cool that we're doing this live with you over there. So thank you so much, Indigo, for your time today. And of course, folks, if you want to support her, you can go to IndigoAngel222.com is her website. There's the coupon code availability for the Jade Seal removal program that she offers, and you'll find links to her books and also to her Patreon. So I'll give you the last words. Indigo, is anything you want to share with the folks before we leave today?
I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all of your love and support. Thank you for having me on your channel. And I look forward to future collaborations. And it's good to be here today.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much again, everyone in the live chat, for being here today. We'll do more of these. I love you guys. And of course, thank you, Indigo, for being here today. I love you too. Be safe, have fun, and stay in touch. Take care. Au revoir. Bye.